If you want to hear my theory on how a couple familiar characters might have played a hand in the ending of Annabelle Comes Home, then stick around to the end of this video. It's been a long journey spanning over several movies, but Annabelle is finally coming home. Today on Things You Missed, I'm covering the third movie of the Annabelle subset, Annabelle Comes Home. And it starts with the nurses, again. We've seen this exact conversation included in The Conjuring, Annabelle, and now Annabelle Comes Home. At least this time we get to see what happens after that. Ed takes the doll as he and Lorraine begin a long drive home. Lorraine says that they might get lost and she'll wake up in California. That could be a reference to the fact that the Annabelle doll was in California in the last movie chronologically, or maybe a clue that they'll be headed there in the future. The car breaks down near a cemetery and Ed hops out to inspect it. Lorraine hears a voice say, "I like your doll." Annabelle Higgins, also known as Janice, says this exact line when breaking into John and Mia's house in Annabelle. I like your dolls. One of the things I'll be talking about in this video is how the demon that's attached to the Annabelle doll learns new tricks from each home that he stays in. Imitating the Higgins' adopted daughter is just one of them. As the pastor from The Conjuring helps Ed and Lorraine secure the doll, a number of supernatural occurrences take place, one of which is the clocks moving backwards. Much later in the film, a character named Danielle sees a TV screen that shows a feed of her a couple seconds into the future. So I'm thinking that time manipulation could be a new ability that the demon Malthus has picked up. This may or may not be related to Lorraine's ability to see past and future events as showcased in The Conjuring 2, or the TV that seems to show programs related to what's about to happen in the original Annabelle. Judy's babysitter Mary Ellen goes to the grocery store to prepare a cake for her birthday, and at the end of one of the aisles, there's a comic book display with 4 covers that we can see: Swamp Thing, The Demon, Detective Comics, and Batman. The demon is obviously there because the antagonists of the Conjuring universe are demons, but another interesting note is that all 4 comics are DC. James Wan, who directed The Conjuring 1 and 2, and David F. Sandberg, who, as you know, directed Annabelle Creation, both went on to make DC comic book movies. I haven't seen these movies, but I have heard that they sometimes link back with an Annabelle reference. Mary Ellen's friend Daniela shows up at the house and finds a bell, and she asks if this is a spirit bell. When the spirits are unleashed later, all the bells ring like crazy. This is one of those tricks that Malthus picked up over the years. In Annabelle Creation, Esther Mullins is bedridden and uses a similar bell to request help, which the demon takes advantage of to scare these 2 girls. When Daniela sneaks into the Warren artifact room for the first time, everything that we'll come to know about the lore of this movie is set up. Outside of Malthus, there are at the very least 3 other spirits from the Warrens' past cases that are set free. Daniela touches the book on the Black Shuck, which, if you don't know, is the legend of a ghostly black dog that could be found in the UK. Some have said that it's a demon, and others have said that it's an omen of death. It's not clear if the book is the artifact in this case, or if it's the taxidermied dog seen in the background, but I'm guessing it's the book because that's what she touches. In the study later, when they're snooping into the case files, it refers to the Black Shuck as a hellhound from St. Mary's Cemetery in England. Later, we see the box that the info from this case is kept in, and the label says February 1966, which predates both The Conjuring and Annabelle. Another object that she touches is the bag of coins. The case file we see later for this case is called the Ferryman. Okay, I was kidding when I said they should make a Conjuring movie on the Tooth Fairy, but it turns out they've gone ahead and pulled it off? This one is an ancient Greek legend about the mythological Charon, said to ferry the souls of the dead away from the land of the living. The coins seen over the eyes of the victims are a reference to Charon's obol, and it was seen as a bribe for him to carry over the soul and prevent it from drifting back to the world of the living. When Daniela later invades the case file for this, she shows the picture of a victim that looks like Mary Ellen, saying they could be sisters. This is the doppelganger-like woman in the coffin that Mary Ellen must pry the Annabelle doll away from at the end of the movie. Then there's the wedding dress, and though it's not said by name in Annabelle Comes Home, it's based on the legend, The Haunted Wedding Dress of Anna Baker. This is a legend about a girl from the 1940s who met a bitter and miserable death after her father didn't allow her to marry the man who she'd fallen in love with. Judy explains that this dress haunts people and causes them to become violent, which is what happens later that night to Daniela, after the ghost of the bride pins her and does that throw up black substance in her mouth thing, the same thing that got Janice possessed in Annabelle Creation. So other than Malthus, those are the 3 main evil spirits that get released in Annabelle Comes Home, but there are a few others that I believe got out as well, some of which you may find familiar. Once Malthus is out, bad things start to happen. That afternoon, someone knocks on the door, and Mary Ellen opens it to find that it's Bee, the deceased daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Mullins from Annabelle Creation, and the form that the demon uses to trick them later on. One of the notes left for the girls says, "Miss me?" Later on, when Daniela is back in the artifact room, the typewriter says "miss me" over and over. The idea of leaving notes behind comes from Bee, who used to leave her dad notes when she wanted to play hide and seek, and the phrase "miss me" is something that the demon used to terrorize the nurses from the opening of The Conjuring. The scene where Judy is attacked by the wedding dress woman in her room is very reminiscent of a scene from The Nun, where the demon circles around the outside of the room, then appears and charges forward. Whenever she walks by a picture frame, she causes it to fall, but when she walks by the cross, it flips over into a satanic cross. Later on, if you pay attention to the game show on the TV, the contestant is a young girl who wins a Raggedy Ann doll. So the actual doll that the Annabelle doll is based on continues the streak of appearing as an Easter egg in each movie. That night, after Judy is in bed, Daniela heads home but realizes that she still has the keys to the Warrens' artifact room. So she sneaks back in to try to contact her father one more time. She thinks she's made contact, but it's really just the demon posing as her father to scare her. When it comes and screams at her, the form of her dad is missing one eye. Perhaps another trick that Malthus picked up from Esther Mullins that he adds to his arsenal. Meanwhile, Mary Ellen pours herself a glass of milk, which the demon promptly destroys. "We get it, dude, you don't like skim." The ferryman also starts to torment her by rolling a bunch of coins at her. Wow man, I wish my demons gave me free money. But things get real when she sees the 2 coins near the ceiling in the dark, because anyone who's seen the original Annabelle may know that this is how Malthus sneaks up on you, by climbing on the ceiling and then pouncing down on you. This is about when the air yeeting begins. Mary Ellen gets air yeeted across the floor downstairs, and Judy is fast asleep upstairs. Before, I mentioned that there may be another familiar spirit that gets released from the artifact room, because the way that Judy gets pulled down on her bed is very reminiscent of the attacks issued by Bathsheba, the witch that the Warrens defeat in The Conjuring.
It's not funny anymore. I'm trying to sleep. Please stop grabbing my feet.
But that isn't all, because the music box that Bathsheba is stored in appears in the climax scene in the study, where it can be seen sitting in the background before somehow appearing back in the artifact room at the end of the movie. But back to Judy's room for a moment. The light projector is knocked down and 4 shadows appear on the wall, one for each color of light. The first is the shape of the Annabelle doll, then Bee, then the adult Annabelle Higgins, and then the last one is Malthus, which is the first that we see of him in his true form during this movie. As I mentioned, Malthus has picked up some alternate forms and tricks along the way, from the farmhouse in Annabelle Creation, to the apartments in Annabelle, to the nurse's home in The Conjuring. But apparently he's also been to the wizarding world of Harry Potter, because he tries to suck out Judy's soul through her face, which is exactly how the Dementors suck your soul out in Harry Potter. Together, the 3 girls are able to contain the evil once again, but before I end this video, I have one more lingering question that I'd like to answer. The whole idea of this movie is that Judy has this young babysitter that makes the mistake of letting a friend open up the artifact room. But what happened to Judy's grandmother that stays over and takes care of her in The Conjuring?
Mom, it's me. Is Judy okay? Can you go check, please? Just check, please.
Are you gonna tell me what's going on?
No.
We know Annabelle Comes Home takes place between The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 because the music box that they acquired at the end of the first one is there on the shelf. But the toy that they acquired from The Conjuring 2 isn't there yet. Actually, it doesn't 100% make sense because this scene takes place in '68, so I think the 1 year later text in Annabelle Comes Home just means 1 year after The Conjuring. So Annabelle Comes Home must take place in 1971 or 1972. So what happened to Georgiana in that 1 year? It's possible they just fired her after this whole incident took place.
Judy! Judy, open the door! Mom! Judy! Judy, open the door!
What is it?
What's out of there?
But I like to think that they're still on good terms. Georgiana was getting up there in age, and it's possible that she could have passed on. Maybe her ghost is still present in the house. It's never explained in Annabelle Comes Home what caused Judy to overcome her fear of ghosts, giving her the courage to follow the spirit of Father Michael Morrissey, that's the guy that she sees at her school, in order to recover the key and get back the Annabelle doll. But she does reiterate a line that Mary Ellen had told her earlier. Maybe not all ghosts are bad. I like to think that she may have realized this by encountering or remembering Georgiana's ghost somewhere along the way. That wraps up this trilogy of things you missed in Annabelle, but click the playlist on the left to see my other Conjuring Universe episodes. And we've got a new mainline Conjuring movie on the way very soon, so make sure you're subscribed to CZsWorld for new horrors every week, ring that death bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.